Hey guys, I'm Gebhardt Berndt, and today we're going to go on with the topic of the end times. And if you haven't done so, and you haven't listened to session 1 and 2, you really need to do so, because in that I spoke about what are the signs that Jesus was referring to that we will see right about the end. But in today, in session number 3, I want to expound the word of the Lord deeper, because we really need to just look at the word of the Lord, because Jesus said it all. Jesus did not want us to go unplanned or afraid into the time that we are living in. In actual fact, he wanted us to be very, very informed. And therefore, we're going to go to Matthew chapter number 24, and we're going to expound on the word of the Lord, and I want to show you what the Bible says. In Matthew chapter number 24 and verse number 7, the Bible says, "For nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there will be famines, pestilences, and earthquakes in various places." I want you to see this. Jesus says, and there will be famines. The word famines is the word shortage. In other words, around the world, you will see famines. You will see shortages. Now, again, I don't know if you've been reading the news lately, but there's a lot of famines and there's a lot of shortages around the world that is happening. And this is, again, it's not something new. It's always been happening, but it's just basically happening more and more recently. But Jesus doesn't just stick with famines. He goes on and he names pestilences. Now, this word pestilences has got multiple meanings. The first word for the word pestilence is the word newfound sickness. In other words, Jesus says, just before you see me coming back again for the rapture of the church or the parousia of the church, you will see new sicknesses that has never been on the planet that will suddenly arise out of nowhere. Now, again, for the last 3 years, we have been seeing new sicknesses arising out of nowhere, newfound sicknesses that's never been on the planet that is now found again. All of this is biblically accurate. But this word pestilences doesn't just mean newfound sicknesses, it goes deeper. It also means all diseases coming back again. In other words, diseases that were old, diseases that were ancient, diseases that were 10, 50, 100 years old, coming back onto the scene. Now, again, I say all of these things are happening around us. And then the last dimension of this word pestilences is the word man-made diseases. In other words, Jesus said, right at the end of the age, before you see me coming back, you will see man-made diseases coming upon the earth, or man-made sicknesses coming upon the earth. And again, the signs are prevalent. These things are happening round about us. But Jesus doesn't just end with sicknesses. He goes into earthquakes. And he says there will be earthquakes in various places. Now, again, for the last couple of years, we have been seeing worldwide earthquakes. We have been seeing worldwide global events like we haven't seen it ever before. And much of the world is not aware of these things because it doesn't reach them or it doesn't affect them. If it doesn't reach them nor affect them, most people are just blinded about what is happening in the world. But right now, the world is having more earthquakes than ever before. We are actually recording the highest number in the last couple of years, and the statistics tells us this. Now, all of this is once again not designed to make us fear, but designed to call us into a time of urgency to love the Lord and to live for Him. That's right, to love the Lord and to live for Him. And Jesus said, right at the end of the time, right at the end of the culmination of the church, you will see not just famines, not just pestilences, not just earthquakes, but He calls these, listen to this, in verse number 8, in Matthew chapter number 24, He says, all of these are the beginning of sorrows. All of these are the beginning of sorrows. Now, this word, beginning of sorrows, is the Greek word archeodon, and it means birth pangs. It means, and it's not just the word birth pangs, but it also gives us the picture, because the Greek language is a picture language. And so not only does it tell us that these are just birth pangs, it gives us a picture of a woman being pregnant. That's right, it gives us the picture of a woman being pregnant. Now you must ask the question, what happens when a lady is pregnant? And it is simple. What happens to a woman when she carries a child and she comes to the end of her term, or at the end of the 40 weeks, birth pangs start to happen. And just before the baby is delivered, what happens is that these birth pangs happens more and more and more and more. And the quicker they happen upon one another, the more we know in the medical world, we know the baby is coming. So just before the baby coming, those contractions happen quickly, they happen rapidly, they happen on top of one another. And as they happen on top of one another and closer they happen to one another, we know baby coming. So what does this mean? Jesus says the following: right before you see me again, right before you see the rapture of the church, right before you see all of these things happening, you will see all of these things will beat and they will have contractions quicker, and then you'll see me. So what are the contractions? Well, these are the things that we've been mentioning up to now. So we've mentioned in session number 1, deception. We've mentioned also that you will find charlatans, Matthew chapter 24, verse number 5. We also mentioned you will find wars and rumors of wars. And we also find that you will see nation against nation and kingdom against kingdom. All of these things are signs of the end of the age. These are all things that will happen right at the end. And the more they happen on top of one another again and again and again, we know that this is the end of the age, or we're going to see Jesus coming back. Now, what should be encouraging for all of us and what all of us should understand is none of these things should be cause fear in our hearts. Rather, we should just know that these are the signs of the coming, and the coming of the Lord is imminent. I also want to say in today's segment, in segment number 3, and I want to make it very, very clear that you can understand it. It is not like the coming of the Lord is dependent on the signs. The coming of Jesus is imminent. In other words, Jesus can come back any given time. It is not dependent upon the signs. And therefore, I want to correct this theology in your heart to make you understand that signs can happen anytime and the coming of the Lord can happen anytime. And just because we are seeing more signs now doesn't mean that a time is more urgent. No, friend, the time has always been urgent, and this time that we are living in has always been the end of the age. People say, do you know we're living in the end of the age? Yes, we know. We have been living in the end of the age for the last 2023 years. And again, it's not reason to fear. It's reason to trust the Lord, live closely to Him, live in love of Him, and to live a life that is led by Him. And again, I say in this segment number 3, I wanted to highlight for you that Jesus calls this the beginning of sorrows, not the end of time, not the end. He just calls us the beginning. He says all of this stuff is happening around you. Know that this is the beginning of sorrows. It is the beginning of the end, not the end. So what is our hope and what is our confidence? Our hope and our confidence should be the following. While we're seeing everything that is happening around us, we should delight ourselves in Philippians chapter 1, verse number 6. Which says that God will finish all things that He started in our lives. That's right, friend. The things that are happening in our lives and around us, we have been called to a time such as this. There's no mistake why you're living in this hour and in this time. Jesus chose you for this time. That means you carry the necessary goods and the necessary talents and the necessary gifts, all assigned for this time. So the real question that you need to ask yourself is not, why am I living in the end? Or should I be afraid of the end? Or when will the end be? No, the real question is, are you doing what you are supposed to do so soon to the coming of the Lord? In other words, are you living out your purpose? Are you living out your call? And are you living out your assignment? So there's so much to share on the end times, and I've just started to delve into it. And I want to encourage you to stick with me as we go to session number 4 and we cause a revival of the Bible as we look at what Jesus said to His disciples and applicable to us, what will happen right at the end of the age, the end, which is called the age of grace or the age of the church. So stick with me, and if you haven't done so, hit that subscribe button, like our content, comment and share, and let's go to session number 4 as we look at the topic of the end.